Yeah, that's a good spot. Okay, ciao YouTube. This is a little bit of a different video. Didn't really plan this, but I felt like maybe it would help me and kind of provide some context to anyone that cares about what I've been doing and why I haven't posted so many videos just in the last like month or so. Even though I've been very active on social media, so you might have seen what I'm working on already to some degree. And also, I guess, as an update about my life, because I did quit AIM Labs last week, basically. It was my first unemployed week. And I guess maybe some people will care about why I did it and what's next for me. And the reason why I did it is that even though AIM Labs has been great for me, they really gave me an incredible chance to learn so much. And I had so many roles. For people that didn't know, I joined AIM Labs in 2021. Fresh out of, I quit a PhD, and then I did some freelancing in Unity development and also some other stuff. Then I started kind of streaming and making content creation, especially in AIM training, because I got the world records in 2020. And then randomly I was just like, are you guys by any chance hiring? Because I know that AIM Labs is Unity, and I'm kind of I wouldn't say Unity expert, but I had been a TA for Unity and kind of built a course for a university here in Cagliari. So I had worked on games. I launched a game on iOS that was in Unity, and I had freelanced, and I was playing AIM trainers all day. So I was like, maybe you guys would like to work together. And then I joined as a software engineer. And then, even though the company was pretty large, 140 employees when I joined, I somehow still they trust me so much that I managed to become director of engineering and then VP of product. So I even moved into product management, which is a completely different field, but that's a field that I really liked because I'm really into business in general. And then I became VP of R&D because I also did some R&D. I did a lot of data analysis, which is another field that I really love. And then ultimately I peaked at CTO, but I really didn't love the whole CTO, C-suite, when you have something like a VC-backed company with a lot of money invested on it, like AIM Labs, has a lot of politics involved that I feel too young to deal with right now. Maybe I would want to deal with that stuff if I'm 40, but right now I kind of still in the, I just want to make stuff, break stuff and go fast period of my life, I guess. So I know myself, and I kind of know that I need to take a leap of faith to move forward. So that's why I decided to quit TLDR. I really wanted to try some more stuff out that I know I probably wouldn't have done if I had stayed. Even though for the past 6 months I had already stepped down from CTO to a part-time job that allowed me to kind of come back to content creation and in general exploring my curiosity further, because there's just so much that I want to do. And on that topic, this video is going to be, I think it's going to be very helpful for me too, to kind of put some order in my thoughts. That's why I'm wearing this. It says Procrastinators Unite tomorrow, because sadly I do struggle with that a lot. I did get diagnosed with ADHD, I've mentioned this before, as an adult. I was already 28, so a couple years ago, because I'm 31 now. And that made a lot of sense because I do really struggle. I start 100 things, and luckily I do finish some, but not quite enough. So I have already started many things, some publicly, but I kind of wanted to do a recap of everything that I'm working on, what the things that I want to work on are, and that way maybe I can also get some feedback from you guys on what might be the most interesting, so that I can it can kind of help me focus a little bit. I don't really have points written down because I kind of know, and really if it doesn't even come up, then it can't be that important that I should work on it. The number one thing that's on my mind is the experiment, because a lot of people, at this point we're at 200 plus completed surveys, join the Discord. You can read more of the details in the Patreon, but the TLDR is that now we have a nice kind of number of available volunteers, and we can do a lot of splitting the group based on some whatever we want to use as the rules to split it into subsets. So say for example that we want something that will target specifically average skilled players, then we can filter out based on what was in the survey, so that we don't get people that would skew whatever results we're trying to find, which is great. And we even came up, I'm saying we because a number of volunteers helped with like a lot of the planning at first, and a lot of the volunteers really helped. And now I feel like I'm kind of letting them and you guys down by not pushing, so I'll give more info. And I feel like maybe recently I've been struggling with like perfectionism in a way. Maybe I'm a little afraid of like judgment, or maybe I'm a little afraid of kind of like messing something up, but I think I should just like go for it and do things instead, rather than overthink it. So in the context of the experiment, I want to make sure that I don't mess it up and I don't waste people's time. And designing an experiment is hard, but I think the first idea, which was to build an experiment around DPI, because we can theory craft in a million different ways about how DPI should be technically better if it's higher, but I've made many points about like, yes, but also technically whenever you have something that's sampling reality and you increase sensitivity, you inevitably get a worse signal to noise ratio, which is my point, where we can't just assume that higher is better. Also, I am not a fan of the way that a lot of YouTubers and have built this idea that higher DPI saves you like 4 milliseconds of latency, which just doesn't make any sense if you run the numbers. But it's been taken as like a status quo, so it can be challenged. So I wanted to take a more empirical approach where throw the technicality of it all out for once, for a second, and then let's just have people run the experiment so that maybe we have them play at, a given DPI for a week, and then they play at a different, maybe double the DPI for a different week, and we make sure that they're playing something that can be tracked, and we have them keep a journal through the Discord bot, so that maybe every day or once a week they also give some subjective qualitative data, and then we take the quantitative data from whatever tracking for the game they're playing is being used, and then we see if we can find some correlation. Remember, correlation doesn't imply causation, but that would be cool. So it's kind of like, it's decided, that's what the first experiment I want to do, but then I keep overthinking like the modality, the way I should announce it, and that's why it's been taking so long. But now, I feel like I have no more excuses. I'm fully unemployed, and I am dedicating all my free time to, similar stuff that some of you might have seen on Twitter. So that is like top of the list and the first thing I mentioned, because I definitely want to push that, because if we do a nice first experiment, then there's just so many cool things that we can do after that. So I would just want to give an update that it's not abandoned. I'm just trying to get some order in my brain, in my life, so that I can run things in a way that makes more sense. Now, the other thing that's been taking a lot of my time is this optimization video. It's not really the video is taking me a lot of time. I have recorded like already 1 hour of footage. The issue is that perfectionism is also kind of hitting me hard there, especially because this tweaker and optimization community is just, I'll be honest, just unbearable to me, because I feel like there's a lot of money, relative to, I guess money, making a lot of money is relative always, but there's kind of a lot of money that these people are making in a way that I really don't find to be ethical, because a lot of the things they claim are just not proven to be true. And I've also noticed some advice that is actually proven by me to be wrong. So it's like they're having people pay them for a service, which is fair, It's absolutely fair. You pay someone for a service that you don't want to waste your time on. So it makes sense that someone would pay for someone else to optimize their rig, their computer, their Windows, whatever. I just dislike how these people kind of make a lot of stuff up, and just the way they do it is very like, oh, I've got the final script, like you have no idea, this is the way, like using a lower latency, and all these words being used just randomly, no testing whatsoever, no like rigor in terms of scientific testing, just it's like kind of like goes against everything I stand for, to be quite frank. And I've now like aggroed this community, and I've never had so much negativity, even though literally I will clip this, save it. I will never ask anyone for a single euro to optimize their PC. There is absolutely nothing that interests me at all. I did it for myself as a curiosity thing, and because I noticed that I felt a difference in OBS being on and off, and then I bought a capture card, and then I was like, it just kind of snowballed, and I did it out of my curiosity, and then I had some really cool results, and then I want to share them because that's kind of what I do. But again, I aggro these people. I don't intend to take your jobs. I have absolutely no ambition in becoming a tweaker. I find that to be very boring to me. I'll be very honest. I just did it on my system because it was fun. And now I think people expect this video to be like an optimization guide. The video was always meant to just be me telling the story of like what I did in order. And now I'm also overthinking it because a lot of it is like, well, these people expect a guide. So maybe I'm trying to at least make it a little more rigorous, where I'm taking benchmarks of things that I didn't particularly care about taking benchmarks for because they just made sense to me, like the way I changed my interrupts around was just something that I went for like logic, and then I felt good. And since I'm not trying to sell anything to anyone and I didn't want to make a guide, I didn't care because it feels good to me. Even if it's placebo, that's good enough. But now I'm trying to make it more rigorous because, I mean, maybe people expect that. Which has been a pain in the ass, honestly. And then if I tweet my results, I aggro more people. I'll still do it. Maybe I'll do the video, use the footage, which is just me telling the story. I'll put it out, and then I'll make another video where it's like, okay, these are the things that I did test because I'm logging them in a document. Go try it for yourself. This stuff is complicated, multivariate. For example, I have a monitor with DSC, display shrink compression, which is this technology that is kind of needed to, you know, send something that in terms of pure bandwidth would be over the limits of whatever standard you're using. For example, my PG248QP from Asus uses a 540 Hz 1080p over DisplayPort 1.4, and I think they need to use DSC because that bandwidth would probably be above the limits of DP 1.4. But then DSC, even though it's technically almost lossless, still has implications, like Windows doesn't let you use MPO, multiplane overlay, which is this technology that's needed so that you actually get the benefits of full screen exclusive even when your thing is windowed. It's like, no one is talking about these things, and I understand because I'm getting a headache just mentioning them briefly, but that also means that there's no like one solution for everyone, and how people understand that I took my system and I optimized it because it was fun. So that's like kind of one of the things that obviously people are waiting on, and I've been posting a lot of like my thoughts on my Discord, and I posted the script for the video, which I kind of stuck to, but not really, because the more with the weeks pass, the more things I discover. On my Patreon, on the paid tier, which actually had a surprising amount of people paying for it, which also made me overthink it, because I'm like, are these people like paying because they think there's going to be a guide? That's not the point. So anyway, that also though sparked my curiosity in a way that I do enjoy, which is I started building. In general, I always knew that I wanted to build some electronics. I find it really fun. I'm a computer scientist, so I never studied electronics. Like I'm a real computer scientist, like software and things in my mind, and you know, maybe formal languages. Like really, the in Italy we have kind of a distinction between computer engineering and computer science. I am actually a computer scientist, so I didn't study anything that was like hardware, but it was really fun to me. So I have learned to do some like electronics before, Arduino, ESP32, STM32s, and then because of so much misinformation when it comes to mice, I thought I want to build a mouse. So I got my hands on a Pixar sensor, just a sensor, and then I got a bunch of microcontrollers, and I got some RF like units, like transceivers from Nordic, and I also got some other boards that have their built-in transceivers so that I can try using some proprietary protocols. TLDR, I am building my own like 8K Hertz wireless mouse, and I'm writing the firmware myself, down to like actually initializing the Pixar sensor, writing to the registers, because I feel like I talk about this a lot, and I claim that a lot of people are uninformed. I need to fully understand the full stack. I think really well, or kind of well. I kind of really understand the Windows portion pretty well now, in terms of like how from the USB bus the data gets into your game. But then it was like, okay, but now we have the part that goes from the like photons that hit your mousepad to the USB stack, and that's also very complicated and super misunderstood. So it was like, what better way to figure it out if not by building a mouse from scratch, and from the basic components that I can start from. I can't go any more granular than a sensor, because there's just no way that a hobbyist can not use a built-in, like a pre-built sensor like Pixar. And you know, you can tell because literally only Logitech has their own in-house gaming sensors, and no one else, everyone else uses Pixar. So obviously a hobbyist has no chance of not doing it. Also, I've mentioned about my thoughts about sensor position, and I thought what better way to do it if not making my own mouse with multiple sensors so that I can have a virtual sensor, which I've mentioned a couple of times before. It's just really fun. So that's something that's taking a lot of my time. And also now I want to build better testing equipment. So I bought an oscilloscope, which I had never had. It's super fun to use. I'm building a tiny latency tester that uses a microphone instead of cameras, because I think most YouTubers use cameras and they often use like used cameras like a Sony RX100. There's a couple issues with that. Obviously, decoding images and light is a lot harder than decoding sound. This is the same for our brain. That's why we react faster to auditory stimuli than visual, because obviously, as you can imagine, it's basically like a one-dimensional signal, analog signal like sound, is a lot easier to decode both for our brains and for a computer than a bidimensional image, which is, exponentially more information. And that's why you have to pay like 5 digits to have a real high FPS camera with a global shutter. Because if you use one of these like RX100 cameras, they also have like a rolling shutter, which means that an image is taken like from the top and it goes down, which also means that basically the information at the top won't really be taken at the same time as the information at the bottom. But there's global shutter cameras that do allow you to take information all at once. And if I really wanted to do serious testing, I would need a high FPS global shutter, somewhat decent resolution for at least seeing a monitor, and that's already 5 digits. So I'm thinking of trying to building my own, which would be more in the like 500 euros. I think I would need to learn something called FPGA, which is basically they're kind of similar to microcontrollers, but it seems to be like a fully parallel approach. In my mind, it's almost similar to like a GPU, which is what you use to solve embarrassingly parallel problems, which I've had some fun before in my life with CUDA, and a CPU, which tends to have much fewer cores and just be much faster, which I imagine basically a microcontroller versus FPGA. And I'm sure people are more, I really don't understand this stuff yet, but it looks super fun. So I also want to build a high FPS camera, but I was just like, any shitty microphone samples sound at least like 44K hertz. A 44K hertz camera, 44K FPS camera with a global shutter, I don't even want to imagine how much that might cost. I'm sure it's getting like close to 6 digits or maybe still 5 digits, but way above what I can afford. And I'm sure some people already realize this, because I think I've seen some open source solutions for testing latency that use sound. But I was just like, these are also too expensive, so I basically just built a little thing that with like $10 allowed me to measure click to photon latency by using the sound of the click actuating and a sound played by a buzzer connected to a little microcontroller when light on screen changes. And it's pretty good, it's pretty consistent, so now I can test some of the claims, again, this is all like my overthinking about the optimization thing, because I'm like, what if I claim that, for example, optimizing your interrupts so that your mouse is only running on a given core? I want to be able to test it. Some of them I still won't be able to test because I do need a camera. For example, moving your mouse is a problematic thing, because it's hard to test it in a vacuum, because moving your mouse generates interrupts, which will interplay with your GPU sending interrupts and your game threads running logic at the same time. So you kind of need to try to test it. No, you can't test it in a vacuum. You need to test it in the wild, in a real game, because you might observe stuff that you won't be able to replicate if you do it in a vacuum. And I don't think anyone is testing this either. So I need a real global shutter camera. So I'm trying to figure out how to build that too, which is another thing I'm working on. But right now, in terms of actually I've built a USB dongle that's 8K hertz with HID, with a USB high speed, whatever. Most of you probably won't care about the details, but making sure that I have a dongle that actually uses 8K hertz polling to the computer, which I've succeeded at. And then I've built a mouse. I just have a sensor connected to a microcontroller, connected to a unit, the transceiver that I mentioned before, all powered by a battery, so that basically I have all the building components of something, and I can move the sensor around and it sends the data over the air to the transceiver on the dongle, and then sends it through HID to the computer, which is exactly how a mouse, like any wireless mouse, works. So those two things have been taking some time, and apart from that, all the optimization has taken a lot of time, with I think really good results. I'm really proud of the things I've achieved. Just not very happy about everything. around it and the community. Apart from that, I have like a bunch of other projects that are kind of like paused, mostly about, well, first of all, I want to get Astra complete in Voltaic S5. I enjoy the viscous benchmark, so I kind of want to play those. Kind of sucks that there's a lot of drama going on in the AIM community right now. I don't really understand it. I'm not following it, but it's still fun for me, so I'll continue to do it. I want to get back in the top 3 for 1W60S. I just haven't been really playing much because I've been doing so much like corollary work. And I have a ton of stuff to review. A Japanese company called Device Armory sent me a glass pad that's still a prototype, and a really cool 100% polyester, which is surprising, pad with Japanese poron, so basically like an artisan style pad that is very soft, but very smooth. It's called 001, but feels very similar in terms of speed to like a Kurosan Ninja Speed, which I've mentioned before I really like. But that and like the Raiden, which are to me the closest to this one, are really mixed pads with like not just polyester. This one they claim to be fully polyester, so it's really interesting. So that's one of the things that were sent to me, and I've got like a bunch more stuff coming that I really want to review. And a lot of you are asking me about the Type 99 mid, and I've mentioned that the vaccine that I've got, I think, is really basically just the Type 99 mid, but I prefer the molten edges and the width, the thickness of the vaccine. So that stuff is important because I know a lot of you care, but I'm just trying still to put things in order. A lot of people have noticed that I'm using the GPX2C as my main mouse, and I've been wondering why. I have my thoughts. I've been doing some latency measurement there, and I've noticed a difference in click latency that's more than most people would imagine between the ATK F1 Extreme and the GPX2C, and I've also got the ATK F1 Extreme V2 on the way. So I have a bunch of stuff to do on top of getting top 3, farming some clips in Call of Duty and VF6, because I mean it's fun, and I kind of want to show that I've still got it, even though I'm old, and I do get really nice clips, and I just haven't been posting them. And maybe stream too. I think stream is fun, but I just haven't figured out like the right way I should approach my streams. Apart from that, what else am I gonna do with my free time now? How am I even gonna make money? I don't know. A lot of people have been asking me like, what's my plan? I don't want to have a plan right now. I'm following my curiosity. Maybe I make a fucking awesome mouse that outperforms the competition because I decided to go back to basics, write the firmware myself. Maybe I find some cool tricks. Maybe having 2 sensors in that way that I want to use it is cool. I don't know. Maybe not. But if that goes well, maybe I'll look for investors, build something, or maybe not. Maybe I will build some software as a service, something else, something to analyze. Or maybe I will make money with content. I really don't know. So I have no plan. I'm just like going for it. And it's been really fun. But I kind of wanted to just give you guys an update and really thank everyone that has decided to pay for my Patreon, which again, I feel almost like imposter syndrome for, but it's really cool. But at least you get your name here or somewhere that it's going to be. So really thank you guys, because it does help now that I'm officially unemployed and I can keep spending my money on 100 mice and mousepads all the time. And I might stream more now that I've set up everything with a capture card and 0 latency, and then it's kind of like, what's the point if I'm not going to stream? So I will try to stream, but I just haven't figured out what like I would like to stream. And then of course stay tuned for everything else that I've mentioned. But yeah, this was just a little update. Thank you for being here. I will see you soon. Ciao.